you're now able to get a dashboard that you're able to talk about the within individual changes in performance. And then offers us a lot more rich conversations we can have as a performance staff, and also offers us a lot more rich conversations in terms of how we communicate this data to our end stage stakeholders.
So I'm joined today by Kieran and Shane from Sport Horizon. Now, Sport Horizon create bespoke data analysis and data visualization course specifically for those working in sport. And we previously shared a video with those guys talking through their level one courses for Power BI and Tableau for sports scientists. Now they have a new course, their Power BI for strength and conditioning coaches level one. So they come back today to share a demonstration of the kinds of tools and tricks that you will learn on that course, and have kindly also shared a discount code for Global Performance Insights viewers, which is Joe Club 50. You can find that in the description below. Thank you guys for coming along.
Thank you, Joe. It's great to be back on again. I think last time, a few months ago, was myself, Kieran, and Johannes from Sport Horizon, and the two of us co-founded Sport Horizon 2 years ago now. And was if you want to get more information about what we do, and I know you gave us a lovely intro there, you can check up on the website sporthorizon.co.uk or watch your previous video, which was very popular and great. So yeah, we've been busy the last 2 years. I think one of the biggest things that we've done, aside from introducing a few new courses, is we brought on Shane Malone and Adam Sullivan, two great guys, two sports scientists, two guys who've worked in the applied world, but also both have PhDs in sports science and have worked in academia. So it's a nice mix between the two. But alongside that, most importantly in this case, their data analysis skills and visualization skills in terms of Excel, Power BI, and other business intelligence solutions is really top notch and very well known around the world. So we're delighted to get both of them on as consultants. And maybe Shane, if you want to introduce yourself a little briefly, and I might mention about some of the courses, Joe.
Yeah, so delighted to be involved with Sports Horizon. Kieran's been at me over the past while to jump on board, and delightedly decided to jump on over the last while. Myself and Adam, it was funny when Kieran got in touch with me the week of. I ended up meeting Adam for a coffee chat shortly after. So again, it just shows how, I suppose, interlinked people are in terms of talking about data and building reports. But I suppose my background is I'm a lecturer in TU Dublin on the sports science course there. And then fortunately enough to work with the Dublin senior footballers over the last number of years in Gaelic football, and they've been pretty successful over that time. So it's been cool to be involved. So I have that nice mix between kind of academia and lecturing individuals around sports science, but also then building out and dealing with kind of data issues, data solutions at the coalface with team sport athletes. And then addition piece to that, I suppose, do some consultancy with a couple of clubs, whether it be in soccer, rugby, or other places. But look, really, really excited to be on board with Sports Horizon. It's a really, really cool venture. And look, hopefully can help practitioners in a small little way on their data journey around building different dashboards for athletes.
You guys absolutely do. You're bringing so much value to our industry. So it's great to see you expanding. And of course, we're bringing on more people, then you're bringing out new courses. So the focus for today is this Power BI for S&C coaches level one. We will share at the end some of the upcoming other courses that you've got. But Kieran, if you want to just explain a bit about that course, and if people have already done some of the other courses, Power BI for sports scientists level one, for instance, will they learn anything new? How is this course different, and who's it aimed at?
Yeah, so I suppose the first thing to mention is that the Power BI for S&C coaches is a level one course. So in other words, that if you're a practitioner who has never used Power BI before at all, you can pick it up from day one, and we'll bring you basically from A to Z on that journey of connecting data and manipulating data and then analyzing it and visualizing it. But what we've done with previously with our sports scientist course, level one and level two, is that even for intermediate or even advanced people practitioners as well, there are tricks like across each of the modules that you will learn how to do. So the approach that we've taken is that in each module, after the connecting with the data and manipulation, is that you learn how to produce a lovely, beautiful report at the end of that module. But also then there'll be little calculations and manipulation of data you'll learn also within each module. So in other words, if you've already done the Power BI for Sports Scientist level 1 and even the Power BI for Sports Scientist level 2, there will be new things as well on the Power BI for S&C coaches level 1. We're bringing other data in. So we're doing counter movement jump, VAL, player availability, gym loading. So, the reports that you'll be able to do are the gym report, training attendance section, which is a really important one. And we visualize it quite nicely, I think. And in lots of ways, as practitioners, we know that that player who's on the pitch every day, every match is probably the most worthwhile player that you can have in the setup and in the club. Other ones, then we give a quick one into a GPS load planner as well, which is quite nice and important, I think. And then finally, then CMJ report on an individual level and also on a team level. And the difference really between the sports science ones and the S&C courses as well is that we dig down into the individual level a little bit more, which is nice. This gives us the opportunity to kind of spend more time just on the individual's physical development and attendance and everything. So some of the additional things then of like lots of new DAX calculations as well. So finding latest performance, switch functions, filtering all except, selected values, ranking. So anybody who's done the sports scientist level 1 and 2 that will probably mean more to them. Lots of, data preparation, working with IDs, group data by columns, removing, adding metrics, filter data based on different conditions. So yeah, there's lots. It's a level 1, but there's lots there. And hopefully it continues to be very popular with practitioners. And we can move on to like a level 2. I think the response we've had over the last 2 years, and I think especially the last 6 months to 12 months has been amazing. We've had so many practitioners reaching out on LinkedIn, on Twitter, by email, and they're just looking for help often, in their setup. And that can be from, in terms of a one man or one woman band who has to take care of everything and is looking for more efficiency and speed working with the data because they need to do lots of other tasks in the club, to the person who really wants to dig down into deep analysis of the data and they're part of a big performance department. And we're kind of looking to cater for both, really.
Yeah, your popularity does not surprise me because I think you guys are bringing a lot of value, and it's a phenomenal service because, as we spoke about on the last video, there was a massive gap here in terms of these kinds of courses, specifically in the context of sport. So now, rather than people learning by using data sets about flowers or about the weather, they're actually using data that's meaningful to them. And so it's certainly a very valuable method for upskilling in this area. And so I'm excited that you guys are kindly going to share a bit of a demo. So Shane, I think over to you really then with showing us some of these functions and report building.
So I suppose just to set the context on this. So I suppose we're going to look at kind of building a CMJ dashboard for a team setting. So a team report that you would look at, maybe post a pre-session assessment, maybe match day +2, maybe match day -2, depending on your environment. And we're going to look at bringing data in, playing around it to make it in the best shape possible so we can actually build out a valuable report. So we're going to build out a team CMJ report. I suppose the first thing to consider as a practitioner is to make sure that the color scheme of your initial report is sound and can allow your visualizations to kind of pop off that screen. When we select the canvas, we just come over here to our format, come down to the canvas background color. And again, you can select the color that suits. You might add a club crest up here. The demarcation underneath basically means that we know everything in this particular area is going to be some form of a visualization build. I suppose there's so many metrics coming off these technologies. Typically, we might, as practitioners, break them down into 3 or 4 specific areas. In this use case, probably going to look at some form of performance measures here, something like asymmetries from landing, whether it be peak landing, asymmetries in the middle, and some type of impairment in performance over here, whether it be neuromuscular or an acute impairment. So I suppose the first thing we need to do obviously is get our data. So we're going to come over here, and Power BI allows you to get data from multiple sources, whether it be SQL, whether it be Excel, and there allows you to get multiple sources from different storing bays. So for example, if it's a local drive or a Dropbox or maybe an SQL. So I'm just going to select Excel workbook. going to bring in CMJ data from a local drive, just on my own desktop. But again, in your scenario, it could be elsewhere, like a Dropbox scenario. If you're building out a CMJ database in Excel, you might have something like an admin sheet here. You might have other sheets that are allowing you to calculate certain metrics. In this case, I just want to bring in my CMJ data and I want to load it in to my Power BI to allow me to understand, I suppose, and play around with the different metrics that are coming off this valve-based CMJ assessment. So again, that data will load in, it'll tell you how many rows in the data and it will analyze it and tell you if there's any errors within that data as well. And that allows you then to understand potentially where there's errors in your own Excel database, potentially from a metric or a creating metric perspective. All the metrics will come in, all the measures, it will tell you if it's numeric or if it's hierarchical or if it's text. And that's really, really important in terms of when we go to build out our visualizations. So at this stage, I'm going to transform the data. I'm going to build out a number of other sheets to start talking to our main kind of CMJ database that we've brought in. So I'm going to right click on queries here in the Power Query, and I'm going to duplicate this page. I'm going to double click then, and I'm going to call this our player admin sheet. Okay. And this will act as the centerpiece of our star schematic, which is really, really important. So all the other sheets will talk to this sheet. I'm going to right click and I'm going to remove duplicates here because this is over multiple days. And it means that there's multiple data sets for every player that's here. And from here, I'm going to remove other columns. So that will get rid of everything. And it'll basically now we can create from here a player ID or a player index, which is really, really important because that will allow that player index to talk to our CMJ data and allow us to basically bring in player name from the player index and bring in data potentially from other sheets over time. I'm going to come to add column, index column, and I'm going to go index from 1. And basically what this will do is it'll basically say that this particular player is player 1, player 2, so on and so forth. I'm just going to call this player ID. And now from here, what I have to do is I basically have to merge the query or merge this column into our CMJ data. And that's easily done by coming to home, going over here to merge queries and merge, just select merge queries. And I'm going to merge from one sheet to another here. So the merge area will come up. I'm going to select here, highlight player name, player admin, highlight player name, and it will say the selection matches 135 rows from the first table. So that means that for every single row of data here that's attached to a particular player, it's going to match either the name or the ID to that player. So I'm just going to click OK. And it will bring you across and you get this kind of table. And all I do here is I just filter down for player ID and I hit OK. And now we can see that 112, all this makes sense. It's leveling up and for every single player that's here. So I'm going to go and I'm going to basically select this column and I'm going to move it to the beginning. And I'm now going to remove this, remove player name. And at this stage, everyone's gone, why is he removing player name? Because eventually these two sheets here will talk to one another. So the player name from my player admin will link with 112 and all the numbers attached to players to now allow us to build off this center sheet in our star schematic. So I'm just going to go close and apply. That's the first part of our data manipulation that we've completed. And what you'll see is this will all load in and it should go, Power BI is detecting relationships. Lovely. And now it's detected a little bit of a relationship there. And I can check this myself by coming into modeling, going to manage relationships. And I can see that player admin and player ID are now talking to each other. And that's an active relationship. I can also initially check this if I want by coming into our visualizations, our visualizations, clicking here, doing a clustered bar chart, bringing that on. And just initially, this is just again, making sure that everything is talking to one another before you begin building out anything that you may want to from, say, a switch function perspective. And lovely. What we can see here is now two sheets are talking to one another. So the player name is coming in from the admin and it's bringing in data from another sheet. And this is no different to if we were building out for, say, multiple sheets where we just have a test admin sheet and we're linking the name of the test to a specific ID. Okay, so at this point now, I need to build out a couple of measures. Okay, but what I'm going to first do is I'm going to start to build out and start to visualize my report. So I know I'm going to have basically a slicer up here talking to a graph here, a slicer, a graph, a slicer, a graph. So I'm going to build out the slicers. Okay. And I'm going to just make sure that they visually look sound. So again, this is going to be my performance slicer. Okay. And I can go Control C, Control V to copy that. And I'll copy it twice because I know I want 3 of them. And okay. And at this point, you're starting to see your dashboard sort of take shape. And a nice thing as well is that we can see those red lines from Power BI. It will tell you where the center of the canvas is, and it will tell you if it's in line with other visualizations that you have. I'm also going to bring in a clustered bar chart here. Again, at this point, probably even Joe and Kieran are wondering, what the hell is this guy doing? But bear with me, it's all part of the plan. And again, I'm going to copy and paste that and bring it across. And we're starting to see now what our dashboard is going to look like. It's going to have 3 slicers, and it's going to have 3 bar graphs here. At this point now, I want to make sure that basically if I select a measure or a metric on this slicer, that it will only filter this graph. And if I select on this, it will only filter this graph, and so on and so forth. So I select here and I look at format. I come over to format. And what I want to do, this is editing interactions between specific visualizations. And what we'll see here when we select here is we basically see this is either, when I select this, it's going to manipulate all of these, but I only want it to manipulate this graph. So I turn off here, turn off the interaction here, turn off the interaction, turn off the interaction. And I just repeat that across each of my slicers. So at this point, we're happy in terms of how our Power BI report is starting to look. We're starting to see it take shape in terms of how it's visually going to look. At this point, I need to build what's called a metric table. So we can then do what are known as switch functions, which essentially allow us to look up the name of a metric and then basically switch it to equate to whether it be an average, a max for that day, or whether it be maybe a standard deviation, for example. So I'm going to click on enter data here. And what you'll find is just this little pop-up will occur where it'll allow us to create a table. I'm going to call this table metric table. And at this point, I'm going to come in. I already have this kind of semi built out for the purpose of this demo. So essentially, we're going to have a metric title and a category. And what we've done is we basically split our metrics because we know there's a multitude of metrics that come off any of these force platforms or grind bars or NordBoard. We've split our metrics into either performance, a sim, or neuromuscular impairment. So I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to select column 1, and I'm going to go Control C to copy it and Control V to paste it. And very quickly, all the metrics come in. I'm just going to load that in. And again, what you'll find is it's just load automatically into our data plane, and it will say the 14 rows have been successfully loaded. And it will just pop in. Lovely. So we have our CMJ data, we have our player admin in the center of our star scheme, and now we have our metric table. At this stage, what we need to do is we need to build out a switch function. And essentially what that allows us to do is it allows us to look up the name or the category or the metric name in our metric table that we've just built. And it allows us to switch that function and bring it in multiple layers into our CMJ data. So we can then basically split based on a slicer for a specific metric name. And again, I suppose it's important to iterate at this stage that on the course that you're going to potentially engage with Sports Horizon, that all these specific metrics and functions that we talk about are done in a step-by-step process. So again, what we're doing here is we're switching based on a selected value in our own metric table. We're matching the name of that metric to the name of the metric in the database, and we're basically just maxing it for today's data. So you're getting the best CMJ measure for today's data for that specific athlete. I'm just going to hit enter on that, and that will hopefully come into our database. When we come into our CMJ data, we'll see this selected metric. And at this stage now, we can start to potentially build out our visualizations. So I'm going to come over to our slicers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the metric name to our slicers. And I'm going to do that just for all our slicers at this stage. Okay, and what we can do now is we can start to name these slicers. So again, on this one, this is going to be called performance. This is going to be just a sim. And then this is going to be neuromuscular impairment. And at this stage, we can start to play around as well with how that's visually going to look for each of our slicers. Bring it back. And again, from a performance perspective, again, Arial black. and bring it back. Now is I need to make sure that basically that only in the performance slicer am I getting performance metrics, only in the ASIM am I getting ASIM, and only in the neuromuscular am I getting neuromuscular. So what I can do here is I can just select this and just filter it and very quickly filter it for peak landing force. Make sure concentric duration is turned off. And again, here, what we might do is just select duration, impulse, and impulse. And here we might just look at maybe CMJ height and some peak power measures. So again, we'll go peak power and we'll go jump height. Now it's basically just making sure that our slicers will talk to our visuals when we need them. So I'm just going to make this a little bit cleaner in terms of how it looks. So I'm coming into visual slicer settings, making it a tile. Okay. And again, making it a tile. And again here, just making it a tile. And again, a lot of this is repetition around different things. So what I can do now is I can bring in some data from our player admin. So bring in player name, bring in player name, and again, bring in player name. And again, it's important just to build out and repeat these processes as we go. I'm going to turn off the edit interactions for now as well. So again, it's important just to repeat these steps. So you're basically repeating the same thing. You're building out this once and then building it out multiple times. So when I come in now to my CMJ data sheet, I'm just going to bring in my selected metrics. And if I select jump height, that should visual. And also if I select peak power, that will visualize. So again, we know that the selected metric or the switch function has worked because now from a performance perspective, I can bring in multiple measures. Okay. And again, look, we don't need to get too worried about how it visually looks at this moment in time. The key thing is that by doing this switch function, we know now we can select for different metrics across different constructs of monitoring. So the important thing now is that most individuals now as a practitioner will add an average line. So if we select jump height, select the graph, come over here to our further analysis tool that we have and Power BI offers. They might drop down, they might add a line, and that'll be our average line for our performance. You might color it in a red color. Transparency 0, so it pops off. And at this stage, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make sure that my selected metric values are being brought in. So if I go peak landing, lovely, and I just go concentric duration, beautiful. So now we have data that's being brought in across multiple constructs where we now know that we can look at multiple measures across different constructs pretty quickly. So you think about this on a match day -2, you collect your data, gone into your Dropbox, you brought it in, you hit refresh, and now on that specific day, we can now look at multiple measures across multiple athletes. And now it's just about maybe cleaning up this. So again, coming to sort axis by name and making sure that that's in ascending. And this will all make sense now in a few minutes why I'm doing this. Sort by name, again, make it ascending, again, sort by name and make it ascending. Okay, so we have, for example, Kyle Flaherty, Alex Young. We have these guys, and it's his data consistently across as because it's ranked by name. So what I can do here pretty quickly is I can just come to our axes and I can turn it off. And I can turn it off. So now we know we've Alex Young's data all the way across. Our next is Kyle Flaherty. I can even come to a stage where I can drag this out. And I can drag this out as well. And we can start to now get the players' names and we know that it's his measures consistently across. Again, on this, like this graph, we might add an average value. So again, add a line, color it in red, bring the transparency back. So now what we have is we have a visualization or a dashboard that we can begin to make some form of comment on how our athletes are training on any given day. So for example, when we come to jump height, we can say these two athletes are above average. When we look at this from an impulse at 100 milliseconds, from a concentric duration perspective, we can say that, for example, Killian Kerwin is above average. Again, it's giving us a little bit of insight, but not a lot of insight. At this stage now, we need to build out a switch function for a Z score. Okay, so I come over to select my data, come to new measure. And at this stage, what we want to do is we want to call it selected measure Z score. And again, this is something that at Sports Horizon, we're looking to add in to our additional courses. that will come down the track. At this stage, again, it's important to reiterate that we're building out these metrics in a demo fashion here. In our courses, it's on a step-by-step basis. So essentially what we've done here, it's no different to the switch function we performed previously, where we're looking now at naming a variable and calling it metric value, where we go variable, name, metric value, variable, metric mean, and then variable, metric standard deviation. And essentially the switch function is the exact same switch function we've done previously. So we're taking the best performance on this given day for that athlete. We're then taking the average performance over time for any given athlete. And we're then taking the standard deviation from the population. And then we're basically doing our simple Z-score equation where we take the today's score minus the mean divided by the standard deviation, come up, hit enter, and that will come in as a Z-score. Okay, so again, that's worked. We know it's worked because Power BI isn't giving us any errors here. So again, you can build this out for as many metrics as you want. Once you understand how to do a switch function, really the world is your oyster and you're only limited by your own creativity in terms of metrics you want to create. Additionally, what's important to understand here is once we've created a within individual Z-score, which we've done here, we can now create within individual STEM scores and other key statistical analysis that we might want to do with our athlete. So at this stage, what we want to do is we want to bring in the Z score and basically color code this up before we do our specific cleaning up. So again, what we're going to do is just going to select this graph. We're going to come down and we're going to look at our bars. Okay. And this is a little bit different to maybe how you traditionally would go about conditionally formatting. A lot of individuals would have, say, different measures here, whether it be peak landing force or it be jump height, and they just come in here and they go conditional format and then build out. It's a little bit different here because we want a metric to conditionally format all our columns. So again, I select that graph as it's done, come into the edit painter, come down to our bars, and we have this little function thing here. So conditionally format under different conditions that we ourselves want to define. So I just select that. It's on a rule basis. And you get basically what fields do you want to base this on? And I can base it on any of the fields within my CMJ data. So I come down and I want to select Z-score. I want to add maybe 3 rules here. So 1, 2, and I want those rules to be red, yellow or amber, and a nice green color. So the key thing to remember here as a practitioner is Power BI plays a little game with you when you go to add rules where it goes number on one side and percentage on the other. So again, just make sure it's a number and you'll see this will pop up. The thresholds for demarcation of Z scores is probably something that we can debate on. Again, in this video, we're just giving you an example of how you might color code Z scores. So I'm going to go -10 to -1, 0 then to 1, and then 1 to max. And very quickly now we've something where we have Z scores for peak power, Z scores for jump height, we have the average, and now we're just really about cleaning up the visual itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this just for one visual, and then we'll show you the final product across all the specific metrics that we're looking at. So again, what do we need to get rid of from a general perspective? Probably need to get rid of the background. Okay, so now that pops on the screen. We definitely need to add our values or our data labels. So again, coming down, position of them probably outside the end is going to be important. We definitely want our value to kind of pop off the screen just so it's a little bit bold and bring that down. We need to make sure that our y-axis is the same. Again, Arial black, bring that down. Might even go a little bit lower. And again, make sure that our x-axis, again, is the same. So from a value perspective, make sure that's white and make sure it's Arial black. And now what we have here is we have a nice visual where we have player name, we have the color code, and the numbers are jumping out of you. Think about other things we could do here. We could add a date range up here. We could add a slicer here for potentially position, where you're looking at within position, and then within individual Z scores based on today's performance. We've kind of gone through the simple builds, and we've brought our data in. We've built out a metric table. We've transformed our data to build a player admin sheet and then merge that query together so we can basically build off a center sheet and that will respond to other sheets. Again, in your own context, think about how you might connect that to other data sheets. Here's the final build where we've added in, again, some nice visuals around what an asymmetry is, what jump performance is. We've added Z scores for our asymmetries. We've added Z scores and average lines for our players. And we can now just select across different metrics quite nicely for different Z scores. Again, based on the metric that within individual Z scores. And what you're getting now is you're getting a dashboard that you're not only talking about averages and how our player is trending versus the average of team performance. You're now able to get a dashboard that you're able to talk about the within individual changes in performance. And that offers us a lot more rich conversations we can have as a performance staff, and also offers us a lot more rich conversations in terms of how we communicate this data to our end stage stakeholders. Hopefully that gives you a nice brief understanding of switch functions, of playing and wrangling with your data to get a powerful Power BI visualization from a CMJ report perspective.
Thank you, Shane. The beauty with that as well is, like you're saying, that you can publish that online, whereby your fellow performance practitioners, whether that's sports scientists or end stage rehabilitation specialists or physiotherapists, can actually interact with that data. So as you can see there, you can click on different variables and metrics. Positional data as well, would be really interesting. So you can publish that just as a graphic and show your coaching team, but also if you can get them to the level whereby they can actually interact with it in a simple way, you can do that as well. And as Shane says, you add a lot of context, and you can have standard deviations, you can have Z scores, minimum detectable change, standard error of measurement, whatever way you want to visualize the data and to be able to interact with it. So thank you, Shane.
I think what strikes me is how there's so much similarity actually with Excel in terms of data structure and functions, even, the function line at the top. But of course, then there's so much more in terms of that interactivity you were just talking about there, as well as the back end functionality, which should give people confidence. You covered a great deal there, Shane. That was a fantastic demo of the potential of what you could do in a very short period of time. And obviously you've given us a snippet into lots of different functions and tools. But of course, on the course, you guys go through that step by step, talking through what everything is. So I think people should certainly look into that, the Power BI for S&C coaches level 1. As we mentioned, you can get 15% off with the code, and you can find all the details below. To wrap up, Kieran, do you want to share, as well as this new course, what you guys at Sport Horizon have on the horizon as well?
Exactly. Yeah. So we have our previous courses are Power BI for Sports Scientists level 1, and then also Power BI for Sports Scientists level 2, which is more advanced. If you're intermediate practitioner, you can jump straight on to level 2. And Joe, I believe you've got the links for that previously and the coupon codes and everything. We also have our Tableau for Sports Scientists level 1 previously, which has been popular. And we're just in the works at the moment of building out a Tableau for Performance Analysts level 1. And this is really interesting for us because in that space of scouts and performance analysts, we find that most practitioners are either using Tableau at a very basic level or want to get into Tableau. Certainly the big clubs that we've spoken with are all in Tableau in that space. Some are in Power BI. So this will be specifically focused on the kind of stuff that they're the match analysis, the player analysis, individual player analysis, as well as scouting reports. So it's quite an interesting, slightly new space for us. So that's really good. The other one then that we're doing with Adam Sullivan, which is very exciting, and Shane has had input and myself as well, is Excel for Sport from basic to advanced. That will be an interesting one as well with Adam. Aside from the courses then, we're doing one-to-one consultation work. So with Shane on Power BI and also with Adam on Excel. So anybody who wants to come along and get kind of dedicated one-to-one help with the lads over an hour or a series of 5 hours or something like that on an ongoing basis, you can sign up for that on the website, sporthorizon.co.uk. And then finally, our big one is where we're building out at the moment APIs, whereby we're going to have a whole range of dashboards set up already for you and clubs and practitioners if they want, whereby they drop their data and straight away in real time, all their dashboards are populated. And of course, they'll, as Shane quite rightly mentioned, they will have the logo, the colors, the particular variables and metrics that they want to look at, because as we found, every club wants to look at something slightly different. So yeah, plenty exciting stuff.
Amazing. Very exciting. Perhaps as a tiny tease as well, we do have something potentially between myself and you guys in the pipeline that we're working on. So that's a little something to keep your eyes peeled for as well. So lots coming, lots already there, lots coming. Obviously, we'll link to your website where you can find all the information about this. We'll put the details below as well about that discount code for the 15% off, which I should say works across all their courses very kindly, not just this specific S&C coaches one. But guys, thank you very much for sharing your time, sharing such a detailed demo with us today. And hopefully a lot of people will have found value in that. And we'll, of course, now look into some of the other great content that Sport Horizon provides. So thank you all for watching and thank you guys for joining.
Thanks, Joe.
Cheers. Thanks for having us, Joe.